because my blood pressure was so high, they put me on magnesium, and a magnesium drip feels like death. I thought they were exaggerating when they told me, to have a stroke or a seizure. When I was on that magnesium, the way that I was so swollen, my lips, I was so puffy. I just felt like I had been in a car accident. Like I was shaky. I was weak. It was so much going on. I take a nap. I finally took a nap, but I'm like, where's my baby? Like, I know that she's in the NICU. I am bedridden, but I want to see my baby. I've just given birth, see my baby. The first nurse I see, like, hi, I see my baby, and she tells me, no, and I was like, what do you mean, no? She's like, well, you are bedridden here, and she cannot leave her chamber, her bed. Like, she was in a special room in NICU with like pressurized. Like, she thinks she was small, and logically, I understood that we couldn't be together, but the illogical part of me, the pure maternal instinct, just emotional side of me was like, I don't know what you're saying right now. I need to be with my baby. You know what I'm saying? And it went on like that for hours. We were separated. So I gave birth to her. I got to, cheek and be with her for quite literally 3 minutes. And then they took her away and I didn't see her for like the first day of her life. I'm in this room and my family has come. His family has come. So I'm surrounded by family, which in a way was great. And in another way, it was awful because it felt like everybody and their brother was able to go visit her in the NICU except for me. Because I was on the magnesium, I was unable to move. Like I had to be on this medicine for at least 24 hours so that
So, for reference's sake, with the magnesium, it's not only meant to bring blood pressure down, but what happens is that, or how they explained it to me, is that when someone like my wife goes on through a surgery and goes on this magnesium drip, if she were to stand, it could cause such a drastic shift in her blood pressure, which that in itself could cause her to pass out. And if she were to fall, then she could be seriously injured by her surgery, stitches, reopening, or internal injuries.
I thought they were exaggerating. Like if you get up right now, God, I never got finished. If you get up right now, you could have a seizure or a stroke. And again, I hear that, but I'm like, I need to get to my baby. I 4 nurses through their 4 different shifts. I'm like asking nurse that comes in, can I see my baby? Finally, the last time around the 14th or 15th hour that I asked and they told me no, I just lost it. I broke down. I sobbed into Travis's arms because I'm just so frustrated. I understand why, because it was like for my health and they were worried about my blood pressure, but I'm to tell them, if you let me see my baby, my blood pressure is going to go down drastically. I promise.
If you guys remember, in part of the story, I told you that there was a particular nurse to remember, and this is where she comes into play because she becomes an absolute rock star. The that I'm talking about, she actually Bridget, is a traveling nurse. And well, we don't want to use any last names because we wouldn't want to get Bridget in trouble. But comes in and she's like, I've never seen this in any hospital, give me a minute. I'm going to go to some people because Sage is worse for wear. She can't see the baby. I have been with the baby. I've done skin to skin. I've done all this stuff and I feel guilty at that point because obviously Sage has done all the work and not been able to see her baby or our baby. And, had a feeding tube in. She was underweight. There was nothing wrong with her. She was just undercooked, as one would say. But Bridget's in and she's like, I don't understand. She's like, you haven't seen her? And we're like, no, she hasn't. So it takes about an hour. Bridget has her patient she has to check on and everything, but she comes back with the doctor, and the doctor's like, against my better wishes, let you go and see the baby. At point, she also turns to Bridget and was like, it's your ass if somebody or anything goes wrong. Well, I do. And Bridget told us that if anything were to happen, that she would take care of Sage. So that's the only reason.
I think her exact words were, if you have a seizure in the hallway, like, I'll take care of you. If you have a stroke in the hallway, like, I'll take care of you, I didn't realize how intense this all was until I actually went to stand up to get in the chair. It felt like I was getting hit by a bus. It felt like I was having an aneurysm. Like, I don't know what that feels like, but I can imagine because as I stood up, I was like, whoa, just it like I was being crushed. That's the only way I can describe it. So finally am able to get in the chair, and even in the chair, I am woozy, but like I said, I'm either gonna die in this hallway or I'm gonna see my child. Like, there's no between. And I was determined to see that little child right there. So we get there and we're in the NICU. We got to wash our hands and all that stuff. And I finally roll up to this tiny little bed and I look in and I just see this little tiny 4 pound, 12 ounce baby. She's pale, pale. I'm like, whose baby is that? She's so white. Oh my God. She's so undercooked. But yeah, there she was. She was beautiful. And then she lived in that NICU. I feel like in the grand scheme of things, we probably got off scot-free because there were people in there whose children had been in that NICU for months and they lived in Virginia. And I know people now and they're like, oh, my was in the NICU for 200 days and she has XYZ wrong with her. And like those days, even though they felt incredibly long, it was only 19 days and she is, for all intents and purposes, like perfect. She was just learning to eat and feed and swallow and all that stuff.
For wonderful folks who take the time to send out like week messages, like, what can I do for you? How can I help you? Yada yada. So time, if you've ever been through this situation, you know that there's very little that any other person can do. Let me tell you, here's what you can do to help anyone who gets into a situation that has been like ours. Big things. One, we were driving 3, 4, 5 times a day, 25 to a half hour each way to visit her multiple times because we were just terrified to be away from her. Shout out to Nurse Jolly, who made us feel so comfortable. The nurses, not nearly as much. But what you can do: gas gift cards, DoorDash gift cards, DoorDash or Grubhub or whatever it's called at this point. Those people who are experiencing this with the means to get there, because operating a full-time job and then still doing this while she's in recovery was huge to bank accounts and such. Afford not only the hospital bills but to go and do this every day. No, it was time consuming and tiring and tough sledding for a hot minute. So when you text that person, you say, "What can I do?" Just go ahead and tell them, like, send you $20 for gas. Let me do something like that. That's going to be, even if they say no, just send it anyway. That's going to be a huge help, and they will appreciate it when they have a chance to take a breath.
A meal. I had my brother's girlfriend. She's like, "Oh, my friend just had a baby. Like, what you experienced during your first few weeks, like the phase that you would have loved to have had." And we got a Starbucks gift card, and I thought that was amazing. And any sort of meal, because I cook, Travis cooks, but just that option of like, oh, I have to think about what we're gonna have tonight. We're not gonna have fast food. We're gonna have the pasta that was made for us by grandma or cousin Susie or something like that. That is so helpful and just immediately phenomenal. Food is the thought that goes into it, and it's food, and it's sustenance, and it's protein.
All right, guys. Well, that's like it is enough for our first round of you getting to know the Tyndalls. Please like, subscribe. We want everybody to get to know us. Have any stories that are similar, anything that you'd like to talk about, or anything that you want to express. Happy to take a look at these stories and share them. All the parents who go through this kind of thing and come out the other side level-headed. And you blessings from on high for that. But yeah, when it gives you lemons, we won't always be on serious topics. Sage puts me through a lot of calamity and hectic funness. It's perfect either way. That's how we'd edit out.
When gives you lemons.
When Scarlet screams like hell.
When wife
Gives you lemons. When wife gives you lemons.
We're gonna do it together, ready?
When wife gives you lemons. Perfect. Good night, folks.
She's so cute.